are going a little bit goofy about that in Canada and saying, well, why do the Americans get an exception? And Justin's explaining that continental policy is also linked in and tied in that it's very difficult to ban. He's implying that he'd like to find a way. What I find interesting about this is his Minister of Public Safety, this absolutely repulsive creature called Bill Blair, who's one of the worst Toronto police chiefs, a great opponent of liberty, hostile to free speech, an unattractive character in a zillion different ways, and he's now Her Majesty's Minister of Public Safety in Ottawa, and he says illegal immigrants are still allowed in. So you cannot, if you're a Frenchman visiting your cousins in Montreal, or you're a German businessman going to Toronto for a business meeting, you can't get in. But illegal immigrants can still get in. So all the German and the infected German and the infected Italian, all they have to do is throw away their passports and say they're refugees and they can still get in. You know, again, it's this the suicidal tendency in advanced Western democracies is now so strong that it takes more and more effort for the survival instinct to kick in. But basically, in the last 24 hours, people have rediscovered borders, which is interesting for those of us who think that was the main reason that Trump got re-elected. I mentioned earlier that the red light district in Amsterdam had closed for the duration. They're not going to greenlight the red light district anywhere soon, and I rather regretted this because I said this was what I had feared might happen, that this would be a story without a happy ending. It's a different story in Nevada. A Nevada brothel is now demanding masks for sex during the coronavirus scare. This is courtesy of TMZ, or TMZ as I would say. TMZ says that the half-dozen biggest brothels in Las Vegas remain open for business with an asterisk. One brothel manager said all the customers have to wear masks when they walk in, and even during sex. And I don't know what that means. I mean, I'm not quite sure. If you've been wearing a mask anyway, and then you walk in, do they make you put another mask on? That's kind of. Anyway, I don't know how that's going to go. I don't think, given the other bits, given the bits that are unmasked, that's really going to do it. Anyway, it's never a good thing when you're talking about hand sanitizer. A brothel manager said they've got an enormous bottle of hand sanitizing. In a brothel, it's not just the hands that need sanitizing. I'm surprised at that. And at any rate, Amsterdam's brothels are shut down, but Nevada's brothels remain open for business. This is in San Francisco, you can't go out now except to visit a grocery store or a pharmacy. But in Nevada, the brothels are still open. And this is what people are complaining. I mean, I love this. The way the left, coming back to Trump not being Hitler enough, they're all saying he's issued guidelines. The president has issued guidelines, and one of his advisors said today that she wanted people to treat the guidelines as rules. Don't meet in crowds of more than 10 and everything. But the media are saying, where's Hitler when we need him? We've damned this guy as Hitler for 3 years. Where's the why won't Trump let out his inner Hitler? That he's Hitler on everything else. He's been Hitler for 3.5 years. Hitler this, Hitler that, behaving like Hitler, the new Hitler. Achtung, Sieg Heil, jawohl, Herr Trump. And now suddenly, just when you need Hitler, you need the strong hand at the tiller, you need the firm lash of strong government, you need a bit of a Nuremberg rally telling us all what to do, and suddenly Hitler is nowhere in sight. There's never a Hitler around when you need one. That's basically what the leftist media are complaining about on this thing. So Then we have Sleepy Joe Hitler, who's the one. He's been attacking Trump for not spending enough time in the Situation Room. Did you know that they have a room in the White House called the Situation Room? People, but you might think it's just that show that Wolf Blitzer does when you're stuck at the airport. It's called the Situation Room with Wolf Blitzer, but there is an actual Situation Room in the White House where everybody goes when there's a situation. And Sleepy Joe was criticizing Trump for not spending all this time in the Situation Room monitoring the situation. And he said, if I were president, I'd be in the Situation Room all the time. Good luck with that. Do you remember the last time I thought of the Situation Room, there was that picture, I think it was the night they shot bin Laden in Abbottabad. And it showed them all sitting it was the same night of the Canadian election as well. Maybe that was the situation. But they were all sitting around the Situation Room, Hillary with this shocked look on her face. So she was either watching the assassination of Osama bin Laden or late-breaking results from the Canadian election that night. But whatever it was pretty shocking. And the situation, so much of this permanent bureaucracy is not actually helpful at this time. The CDC is a ridiculous institution. It had one thing to do, which is supposed to control diseases. With these things that break out, and they've broken out a lot in the 21st century, where we've had SARS, we've had H1N1, or N1H15, as Joe Biden called it the other night. It doesn't matter, it's all just jargon. He took a shot at it, he was in the ballpark. It's like the AR-14, that rifle he wants to ban. He was I think the N15 is another rifle he wants to ban. The N1H15, that's another one of these scary assault weapons he wants to ban. That's all it has to do. It hasn't actually reacted to the increasing frequency of these diseases from remote parts of the world that are now, thanks to air travel, leaked from one continent to another within hours. It hasn't actually done anything for that. And instead it started combating racism. You know, racism may be socially deplorable, but it isn't actually an infectious disease in the sense that the Centers for Disease Control was set up for. We need to actually, it's the Mrs. Thatcher's old line, if you set up a bureaucracy to deal with a problem, you'll never be rid of it. And that's why she was, whenever people came to her, something was happening, and she said, they'd say, well, we need to set up a Department of State to deal with this. She'd always say, no, then you'll never be rid of it. And that's true. But there's the next stage, that if you set up a useless bureaucracy to deal with something, not only will you never be rid of it, but it will metastasize and it will use its budget for social justice codswallop in the way the Centers for Disease Control has. And if we're looking to what happens at the end of all this, actually shrinking the CDC or even privatizing it in the way of Sir Roger Douglas, the finance minister of New Zealand a few years back, who took a lot of the bureaucracies and simply privatized them. We're going to have this thing recur again and again, because the minute this thing is, you've seen the media, they're complaining that he's labeled it a Chinese virus and he's racist. Well, where did they get that from? The Centers for Disease Control itself thinks that racism is a disease. We need narrowly focused departments that have a particular mission. When they have unlimited budgets and zero scrutiny, then you end up with people as useless and incompetent as the CDC has proved. Mark, it's time for Rush. Your calls. Straight ahead.
You're listening to the EIB Network. Youth Radio 920 and 104.7 FM. Have you been dreaming of a retinol product for those red patches and blemishes without the harsh side effects? Just listen to what Lisa from Athens, Georgia has to say. Been using Genucel RR and the redness on my face is gone. My skin is clearer and brighter. I'm so happy I started